Coming up next on the Breadwinning Mums.
You are enough. You are perfect as you are. You are enough. When you are in the quiet moments, when you find that time to be quiet, you know deep down that you are in actual fact enough. So if there's one message I can give you, it's that you are enough. Find some self-compassion, some self-love. Find that moment, find those moments in your day where you can connect back with your enoughness. You are enough. And from that space, that will help you be the best you can be, have the impact you want to have on the world, and live your life to the full. So there you go, become the CEO of your own life, career and destiny. Why be the 2IC when you can become the CEO instead?
Welcome to the show. I'm Jane Lim. On the Breadwinning Mums podcast, we debunk the myths of working mums, cheer each other on, and show the world that it's okay to be a mum and still pursue excellence in your chosen area of expertise. Today we're chatting with a special guest who is not a breadwinning mum, but someone who helps breadwinning mums thrive in their roles. Amanda Blesing is a mentor, speaker, and international author at the Ambition Revolution. We had a chat about the top challenges facing working mums and practical ways to overcome them, finding the mystical work-life balance, and how to be seen, heard, and promoted at work. Here we go with Amanda Blesing. Hello, Amanda.
Good morning, Jane.
How are you?
I'm a little sleepy because it's the morning here in Australia, and I think it's the evening in New York. Is that correct?
That's right. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you came to be where you are?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jane. And I love talking about myself, although more importantly, I love talking about women, gender equity, and how women can really, earn more, get great jobs, and get recognised for the contribution they actually make. I could talk with a mouthful of marbles underwater about it, but my own background came through the association sector. So, the peak bodies associations. Perhaps your listeners are members of a peak body or an association, and the association sector, I guess, helps professionals be more professional, helps them do their job better, supports them in their journey to have more impact. And so my own career came through the ranks. And what happened was I noticed when I was working in the association sector, I worked with lawyers, I worked with insurers, I worked with policymakers, I worked with complaints professionals, and I even worked with fitness professionals. But what I noticed was that the men in the industries or the professions were much more comfortable putting their hand up for stretch opportunities and opportunities to showcase their talents and their expertise. So I'd call for papers and 10 men would put up their hand and say, oh, yes, I think I've got an idea. And they'd ring me up with a whisper of an idea and something they want to brainstorm. Maybe this would be really good for others to hear about. And maybe only one woman. And yet, in the industries I was working in, there were a lot of women doing amazing work, and in particular the consumer affairs or complaints industry. That's a highly feminized industry, as you might imagine, and the women were doing amazing things, but were the last person to say, yes, I'm doing something amazing and I'd like to share it with others. And so I called for award nominations, and the women were all running around nominating their junior staff, which is the right thing to do. And I loved it because it meant that the industry was more relevant and sustainable over the long term. but then they were too worn out, or maybe they had a dose of imposter syndrome, or they ran out of time and didn't have enough time to perhaps write their own nominations. And I'm like, but you're amazing. You should write a nomination or get someone to help you write your nomination, because I'm not really sure if I'm good enough. So I could see this time and time again, which is in actual fact what gave me the inspiration to do what I do. And usually someone reaches out to me when they've had that moment, that aha moment, like, oh my gosh, I've spent my entire career making other people look good, and I haven't done the same for myself. So that's what I do. I teach women a strategic and powerful approach to halve your effort and double your impact, because I think women are really busy. I think women are busy enough. So that's what I do. Halve your effort, but double your impact.
And that's excellent. Thank you so much. And you are doing this through your own company, right? AmandaBlesing.com.
Yes, that's right. Thank you for my URL. Yeah, AmandaBlesing.com. I've written 2 books. I've got I've got several online courses, but I've got Invisible to Invincible, the online course. I run the She Suite Club. And I guess what I'm most known for is my one-on-one coaching, helping women into the C-suite, helping women step up, take their seat at the table, own their seat at the table, learn how to express their voice when they have that seat at the table, and to flourish while they're there, because it can be absolutely draining. So that's my sweet spot, or what I'm known most for.
Yeah, great. And how long was the journey from the moment when you really noticed that women are not speaking out as much for themselves until you actually created something that all women can actually get value from?
Well, it's really interesting, because I was the CEO of a nonprofit, a CEO of an association, and I was there for 6 years, and it was just this evolving idea that I had, or this feeling that there was something more. I felt that I wanted. I thought that when I was the CEO, that would be the pinnacle. And then once I was the CEO of an organization, I realized that in actual fact, when you're the CEO of an organization, you report into a board. And at one point I had 17 bosses, 17 board members. And all of a sudden, there was this growing awareness that, gosh, I want to be the boss of me. I want to be the CEO of my own life, career, and destiny. I've always shied away of running my own business in the past. And all of a sudden I went, you know what? As scary as it is, I want to have a go.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do it with something that I was passionate about. And it took me a while. I sort of, quit my job, had a long notice period, and I worked with a coach or a mentor in order to uncover what my thing was. And that took 3 or 4 months. And then, of course, imposter syndrome struck, and so another 2 or 3 months before I actually published my first blog about the ambition gap between men and women. And that was the launch of my business. And then it probably took another 6 months before I went, yeah, this is it. This is going to work. This is it. So it was like 9 months. And I think that's a little bit like a pregnancy, isn't it?
Yeah, just the right amount of incubation time.
Yeah, it really did. It took about 9 months before I really felt like this is it. This is this is going to work. This is almost not quite who I am, but this is so ingrained in who I am and how I like to be and who I like to help and the women where I can have most impact with. And that's what gets me out of bed every day and gets me up early doing podcasts with people like me.
Okay, excellent. And so when was that? When did you finally start your own project?
It was 2014. And towards the end of 2014, I launched. So it's almost a decade.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Can you tell us a little bit more about that first blog about the ambition gap?
Gosh, it's a long time ago. But when in my reading, what I had learned was that people say that women aren't as ambitious as men. And I am quite happy to say, hand on heart, research-based, evidence-based, that is not the case. And in actual fact, I call bullshit on that. Am I allowed to say that on your podcast? I call bullshit on that because it's not true. It's just that women express their ambition in different ways, or they feel it in different ways. And men and women correlate success and ambition differently. So for a man, he's socialized to correlate success and ambition with financial gain. I get a promotion, it comes with a pay rise, therefore I am successful. And that's what society sort of dictates, that men, that men are successful in that way. But for women, it's slightly different. So for a woman, she might want the money. Money's really important. And I call this the feminine ambition trifecta. So for a woman, she wants the money. That's important. But if she doesn't feel like she has a voice and is heard, and if she doesn't feel like she's actually making a difference, so money, voice, and making a difference, if she doesn't feel like she's got the whole three, she's far more likely to pick up her bat, ball, and briefcase and go and do something different. And this is the difference. So it's not that we're not as ambitious. It's just that we value different things. We want more out of our work. We want more meaning out of our work. Money and meaning and feeling like we're actually listened to. And that is the challenge. So yes, that's the first blog, and I sort of was talking about the ambition gap and how we can overcome that, and inspiring women to keep going on their journey to be heard and make a difference. It's great.
So out of the last decade that you've been working on empowering women out there, what are the top 3 challenges that you see that are quite common to working mums, especially all across the age gap?
Yeah. Okay. I'd say the first thing is this confidence issue, and confidence, like almost a crisis of confidence. Women certainly express their lack of confidence more than men. And I think we're socialized a little bit to do it. It's the modesty norm. We're not supposed to big note ourselves or, be overtly confident, the humility standards for women. And so I think that that's a really big one. And I suspect that during motherhood, pregnancy, etc., a lot of women undergo a crisis of confidence because they're worn out, because they have perhaps taken their foot off the accelerator of their career, because they're getting messages from different people in their lives about whether they should or should not return to work, whether they should or should not be ambitious, whether they, how they should live their lives. They're getting mixed messages from society and people close to them about how they live their lives. So I really see that confidence is a really big barrier at any stage in your career, even if you've elected not to have kids, or perhaps you're past your child rearing age and perhaps at the other end of your career, and maybe you've feeling worn out and older, and am I too old? Or perhaps you've now got aging parents that you're caring for. So often women pick up the brunt of caring for aging parents as well. And it comes at just the wrong time. Maybe when you're at your peak earning potential at the other end of your career, your peak leadership potential, when you've got your confidence back, but it hits again. So that's probably one of the big issues I think that women really face at all stages of their career: crisis of confidence, self-doubt, wondering if we're good enough, and navigating our way through that. Of course, the big one is the system is broken, and I can't not say that. The system is broken, whether you're confident or not. The system is broken. It doesn't support women. It actually supports men. It sees the way men tackle their career as the normal way, as the only way, and anything else is an aberration. And that's tough for men who want a different career or want to opt for family as well. We hear of men being criticised when they perhaps become the person who stays at home and looks after kids. We see that men are deemed less than ambitious and their careers suffer as well. So the system is definitely broken. So that's probably the biggest issue. So we've got confidence, we've got the system is broken. I'm just trying to think which one to pick for number 3. I think that the third issue would be the lack of a real career success pathway or roadmap. There is no career success pathway or roadmap for women. It's because it's sort of relatively new. The last 50 or so years, women have been making their way through the workforce and up into leadership roles, making their way to earning more, career success, being promoted, and making a difference. So that's relatively new for women. Before that, women just sort of had a job, but it wasn't this notion that you want to progress your career or be ambitious in your career is still relatively new. So there is no clearly defined roadmap, which is why I've created one. In my Invisible to Invincible online course, I've actually created a career success roadmap for women who want a career in the corporate sector. So that's the crisis of confidence, the big one, which is the system is broken. And the third one is there is no career success roadmap or no clearly defined career success roadmap. And it keeps moving. The goalposts keep moving. What's expected of you keep moving. What's the outcomes keep moving. The double standards keep moving. Your need to overprove yourself when you get to work keeps moving. So those are the 3 things I think are really, really important.
Excellent. So let's start with the first one, confidence. What do you think if you had to choose one thing that you have told all of your female clients over the past decade about how to overcome their underconfidence, be it the young mom who have just returned back to work or the fully ready CEO who has, the dreaded syndrome, what would you tell them, or what have you told them that actually moved the needle in that regards?
Confidence is a really big one. And I work with junior women, women junior in the workforce, and I work with senior level women. And at every stage, crisis confidence is an issue. At every stage. And as I said before, is it because women are more likely to express that their lack of they're feeling lack of confidence, or is it real? In actual fact, the scientists aren't out. They don't know if it's hormone washes or is it that we're socialized. They still dispute it. Even the experts still dispute why women perhaps feel less confident or express that they feel less confidence. But the big step is, and I got this, and it was a really great book by Katty Kay and Claire Shipman. And if you haven't read it, go out and get this book. It's just great. The Confidence Code. And if you haven't got time to read a book because you're super busy, get onto The Atlantic and read The Confidence Gap by the same 2 women, Katty Kay and Claire Shipman. And they're both media journalists, and they were both experiencing this crisis of confidence. And their find was that the fix to lack of confidence, or the fix to experiencing low confidence, or your fix to feeling like you're an imposter or a fraud, is to take action. Just do something. Action fixes low confidence. And it goes like this. With action comes certainty, comes clarity, which boosts your confidence. So action, just do something in the direction of your choice, even if you're feeling low confidence, and it can be a baby step. It doesn't have to be a huge step, but do something. Take a baby step in the direction of your choice, and it will start to increase your confidence. So nice. There you go. That's something you can do. And I like the notion of baby steps too. I like the notion that there's little things we can do along the way. It doesn't have to be big, bold, audacious moves. And I think that, on Instagram and in the media, we read stories, they're hero stories, aren't they, about men and women doing big, audacious, bold moves, big, courageous moves. Maybe we don't feel ready to do a big, courageous move. And it probably doesn't make good media or a good article in a magazine. But baby steps are the way to go. Just start taking baby steps towards your choice. Just do something and your confidence will grow in small ways. Think of it like compound interest in the bank. It will keep growing.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, great. And so let's talk about the second one, which is a much harder problem to solve, the broken system. Obviously, we can't change everyone in the universe, but what can we do that can change our own little universe?
We can call out or reframe bias when we see it. I think that's something we can all do. We can make sure that when we bring up our own kids that we're reading as much as we can around making sure that we encourage our young boys and girls to not be brought up in the same way we were, with the narrow stereotype norms, that it can be really limiting for all genders, for everyone. It's not binary. So I think that that's something we can do. But on an individual level, I think where we see people around us perhaps making biased or stereotype choices or narrow choices, we can ask questions. Is that the only way? And sometimes that can be scary because you don't want to be criticised. So I'm trying to think of a practical example. Certainly, when I was a young woman, I remember I was perhaps a little bit strong, So I remember as a 19-year-old, my church youth group leader came and opened up the car door for me in a polite way to let me in, and I was like, "You don't need to do." You don't need to do that for me, I said, as a brash 19-year-old. I've got equal rights. and perhaps that wasn't the best way. I could have introduced the topic a little bit more gently to bring him along for the journey. But I think, we can ask questions. We can ask questions. Do you think all women feel like this? Or do you think men don't want this too? Perhaps we can ask questions that help other people see that the assumption they're making is narrow and limiting to women. Would you do the same for a male staff member? Would you offer the same opportunity to a man? Would you give this same feedback to a man? Would you give this same feedback to one of my male peers? Would you be making the same suggestion to one of my male peers? I think we can ask questions to sort of illuminate where we are seeing perhaps that the feedback was different or the opportunities were different, or where we can. But I think we do need to get involved in our workplaces. In the gender equity sort of initiatives, we do need to get involved. And while that sort of work is not, unfortunately, non-promotable, it's one of those non-promotable tasks, it is important we get involved. And in actual fact, does help you feel more confident that when you're surrounded by like-minded women, it will help you make those more bold, courageous moves when you get involved at work.
Thank you so much for that. I'd like to go into the third point, which is lack of career progression or lack of roadmap, which I'm sure you can help out with this. But I found it interesting in that I think I heard about this a while ago, that men tend to have a lot more advances in their career progression because of the established boys club basically that happens in the background, and women don't really have this close-knit interrelationship that happens in the background that can really help you with your career trajectory. But also in combination with that concept, the fact that nowadays we tend to have about 3 career progressions, separate ones that may not be related to each other. So how do you combine all this with your offering?
Well, let's just talk about that network that men have, because I think that's really important. And I want to talk about it from 2 perspectives. One is that women who network like men, in actual fact, don't advance as much as women who network like women. So I think we've historically been taught we should network like men. And I want to reiterate that you don't have to network like a man in order to get ahead. In actual fact, it can be detrimental to your career. Now, there was some research in 2019 that I've recently been talking about, and it talked, I think they interviewed 750 senior level women, or men and women, and they worked out that women who collected a really big network like men, and or who had other men in their inner circle giving them career advice, didn't progress in their careers as much as, or as well, or as easily as women who had a cohort of like-minded women. So the first thing I would say is get yourself a cohort of like-minded women, which is why I created my She-Suite Club for my clients, so they've got a cohort of like-minded women, career-minded women who can help support them on their way. But the research supports women. The reason it's different is because women perhaps have more quality conversation around career, like you get together and you're supportive of each other. We go into detail about what we're struggling with,
our feelings, our frustration. Yeah, we're not afraid to go deep into that. Yeah.
And that's the trick. We want to be talking about how to overcome these issues, tactics about how to navigate bias, how to lack of opportunity, how to navigate career blocks, how to navigate difficult conversations around lack of career progress, or how to navigate negotiation discussions, how to navigate asking for a pay rise when we feel like we might be criticised if we do. So those conversations with like-minded, career-minded women are so good for you. So women who network like women do better than women who network like men. The other thing is, I think that what we haven't done, and perhaps I think women who are at home child rearing for a period of time, taking a parental break or something like that, I think that we miss out on that. We aren't surrounding ourselves with like-minded women necessarily. Now, for women who are, in work or about to go back to work, or you actually need a board of directors. So what does a board of directors look like? So often we appoint mentors and people who can coaches, and they're great, but what you actually need, and this is where the boys network really does show us the way, you actually need champions and sponsors, and I bet you don't have them. And if you do, congratulations, give yourself a pat on the back. But you also need champions and sponsors. So what's a champion? Someone who, champions and sponsors open doors for you, give you opportunities, make introductions, help you progress your career. So you need to build those people into your career planning. So into your career success roadmap, you need champions and sponsors who will help you open doors. Where do women get stuck is that we're building champions and sponsors, and one of them will say to you, so what do you want? And 9 times out of 10, for some reason, we'll say, oh, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
What have you got? Now, what you will be told by recruiters, by your mentors, by champions and sponsors is to get really clear so they can help you. So start doing the work about being really clear about what you do want. Be really clear so that you can tell them what you do want and they can help open doors in order for you to be able to land that opportunity.
Yep.
Now, you might not know the exact job title, but start being really clear about, I'm looking for my next career move. I'm looking for my next challenge. It's in a management position or a leadership role. It involves people. It involves customer. And I also love projects. So see how clear that sounds.
Yeah.
And so your champion or your sponsor is much more likely to be able to help you make that happen. So get really clear about what you do want. So there you go. There's some elements that you want in your career success roadmap.
Yeah, that's great. I was definitely guilty of that. I met with someone who can definitely be my champion, but I made the mistake of not knowing my ask. And I made another mistake of thinking that it would have been a friendship of some sort. Are you able to distinguish between your relationship with your champions and sponsors versus your best pals?
Well, that's great. And Jane, I have to say I've made the mistake too, which is how I know, that was like when I read about, saying, I'm not really sure what I want. Or I heard from other people saying, gosh, one of the things that the women I help could be more clear about what they want. I went, oh my gosh, I've done that. Oh my goodness. Yep. I remember in going to a recruiter, I was looking for a role. I was looking to resign and I wanted a new role. And I knew I wanted something different, but I didn't know what I want. And I remember almost the recoil on the recruiter's face. She's like, oh, this person's really needy. I don't know how to help them.
Yes.
If they could tell me more, it was like, and I remember seeing that in the moment. So, Jane, I've done it too. You've done it too. And we need to get clear about what we want. And I think sometimes women don't do that because we don't want to pigeon ourselves into the wrong opportunity or create too narrow an ask because we're thinking, well, there might not be an opportunity like that.
Or even being too direct and be almost feel like you're trying to use that person.
Yeah, good point. But in my mind or in my experience, what I have found that other people love to help if they can.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just a reframing, right? In your own mind.
Yeah. So other people love to help if they can. They find it hard to help if you're very needy, but they can help if you this is where I add great value. This is what I've done in the past. This is what I'd like more of. If you like that, then they'd love to in general, love to help. Yeah, good point. Reframe that. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about She Suite?
Oh, She Suite. That's my baby at the moment. So it was I launched the She Suite Club in 2022, and maybe I was a bit late to the party in establishing an online platform for women, for women serious about their career. Maybe I was a bit late to the party, but it was in response to during the pandemic and COVID. What I was finding was that women really wanted to work with me, and they were reaching out to work with me. And I had more women than ever reaching out to work with me because obviously, career was really important and women were finding themselves out of work. And they were reaching out to work with me, and I only had a one-on-one option. And, it was a premium one-on-one coaching option because I tend to work with women who are serious about investing in their career and at that leadership, the cusp of getting into the C-suite, the cusp of landing that C-level role. Which these women are paid really big salaries, and or are super prepared to invest big money in themselves. And so what I was finding was having lots and lots of conversations with women who simply could not afford that. It was well out of their price range and well out of they just were not in a position to be able to invest in themselves in that way, even if they wanted to. Like, they loved the idea of the program, but just could not afford it. And, the economic uncertainty of the pandemic, and even now the economic uncertainty of, we're talking about recessions and high interest rates and mortgage interest rates going up, and it's actually a really economically uncertain time. So I created the She Suite Club to provide an online platform where people or women could access the IP that I talk about in Invisible to Invincible, which is my second book. It became an Amazon bestseller in 2019.
Congrats.
And in actual fact, I'm launching my second edition of that this year, which I'm really super excited about, but more on that later. So the She Suite Club is based on that. And because inside the She Suite Club, we have group coaching every month. We have, chat and conversations, on a daily basis. We run challenges every month. So every month I issue a challenge. So we did, a couple of months ago, we had a LinkedIn challenge. Last month we had a fitness challenge. So it's like the women who wanted to play along were all like encouraging each other to daily well-being and fitness activities. And this next month, we've got another LinkedIn challenge because, my expertise is around self-promotion. So we've got another LinkedIn challenge this month. So we've got monthly challenges, we've got group coaching, we've got, and plus we've got Invisible to Invincible, the career success roadmap for women, which is a 12-week course, and it's housed inside the club. So people join and they can start at any time. And every now and then we do a launch and a bunch of people start all at once. And that takes people through a journey, self-paced journey over 12 weeks with 8 modules. So super fun, super exciting. It's a great platform. We get to be best buds on the platform. I'm in there on a daily basis. I've got a couple of other moderators who work with me who are in there sort of encouraging people, pointing people in the right direction to find career resources, how to get a new job, how to interview, how to, all the tools and skills that you might need, how to negotiate. Here's a negotiation preparation sheet. Here's an interview preparation sheet. All the tools you need to be really successful in your career. So that's the She Suite Club, and it's my baby. I love it.
Yeah,
I hang out
good
with
on
her all
you.
the time, so that's why I love it.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to also ask you about your growing in confidence that you mentioned before. And you've written a few articles about it, made a few presentations about it, and we did talk about it before as well. But if there was one thing that women can do other than just start with it to really elevate that confidence from learning to actually being expert in whatever it is that they try to pursue, what would that be?
Interesting. So we're talking about growing confidence. Confidence is really interesting. Can I take a step back? Because I want to talk a little bit about some brain biology that perhaps you and your listeners might not be aware of, and that can really undermine confidence. And I think once you know about this, it might help you. It might help your listeners see themselves, navigate through this more easily. And I mentioned before that in actual fact, the researchers are out, as to what contributes to women feeling or expressing that they are less confident. Whether is it hormones, is it brain biology, is there no difference? Like the researchers are out, they can't really agree. And these are the people who research this stuff all the time and, immerse themselves in this. They actually can't agree. They differ in their opinions. But one thing I found absolutely fascinating is around, in brains, and at the base of the brain, you might have heard of the amygdala, which is an area at the base of the brain, which is that area of the brain that responds to immediate stress, fight, flight, freeze. So when you're under pressure, do we freeze? Do we run? Or we come out fighting? Now, 2 elements to this. One is that old research was done only on male subjects. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
When we come out, do we fight, flight, or freeze when we're under pressure, under stress? And that was done on only male subjects. So more recently, the research has been repeated with mixed gender test subjects, and it's been found that women have additional responses, including one response called tend and befriend. So under pressure, women go into, not only, but many women go into tend and befriend mode. We switch into nurture. We start nurturing others when we're under pressure. And I find that absolutely fascinating. But what I saw during COVID and the pandemic and various lockdowns is that many of my clients, myself included, and many of the women I was speaking with were going into tend and befriend mode. So we were putting our needs second and looking at prioritizing everyone else's needs above our own. So if you're still in that mode, I want you to, you come back to priority number one is you, and you need to start putting yourself first again and start making the moves on your career, because when you earn more money, it's not a bad thing. It's good for your family. Women donate more to charities, etc. Women give back more. Women invest in their communities more. It's a really good thing. So that's one aspect, but I want to talk about this other aspect, which I think will help you with the confidence. And that's near the amygdala. There's another area called the anterior cingulate cortex. So it's in that reaction center of your brain. So you're not, this is not an area where you're thinking things through. It's in the reaction center of your brain. So the role of the anterior cingulate cortex is to scan. It's constantly scanning for risks and things that might go wrong. It's a lot like a virus scanner on your laptop. It's constantly scanning for little things that might go wrong, like what's in your peripheral vision, the hairs on your back of your neck. Goodness. Oh, wow. Is that a threat? That's what it's doing. Now, what's fascinating is it grows to be twice the size in women than in men. Twice the size of women than in men. And some say that it might do that during motherhood. Some say, but I don't have kids of my own, so I can't say that. Some say that we're socialized like that, and we know about neuroplasticity, where your brain, the neural pathways go thicker and areas of your brain get larger when you think a certain way and do it a lot. Then that's the way your brain area gets bigger. So whether we're socialized or whether it's hormone washes or whether it's we just grow that way because we think a lot like that. But this is the worrywart center. Its nickname is the worrywart center. That's what they nickname it. So it's where we second guess ourselves. It's where we worry about things. It's where we agonize over, I'm not really sure which way to go. I can't make that decision. So I think that we need to, there's a little bit in your brain that's perhaps worrying a lot. Think, if we can learn to separate ourselves from the worrywart center and go, okay, maybe my worrywart center is being overactive today. Here's this tool I use, and whether it's the 4-7-8 breathing technique, inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8 with the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and exhale through your mouth. 8 counts. So it goes 4, 3, 2, 1, then hold 7, 5, and then exhale 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Do that through 4 times, and that's a great circuit breaker. I bet you stop worrying at the end of that. Another tool to stop worrying, belly breathe. So just sit for a moment and breathe. Let your diaphragm drop into your belly as you breathe, as you inhale. Do that 4 to 8 times. And I bet you'll notice, I've stopped worrying. And then you can just move forward and start taking those baby steps. So I've given you 2 little actionable steps there to help nip that worrywart center in the bud, so you can just get on and start doing things that open up the next pathway for what you should be doing next.
Can you tell us a little bit more about know your worth / salary negotiation concept that you talk about with your female clients? Yeah,
gosh, salary negotiation is tough, isn't it? I know that I made every negotiation mistake in the book, even though I got to be a CEO. I made every mistake. But what was fascinating for me was when I was the CEO of the Complaints Association or Complaint Professional Association, I worked with a lot of women. So a lot of women in the membership were dispute resolution experts. So that means they were really good at negotiation. In actual fact, their job was to negotiate on behalf of others.
Mm.
So they were some of the best in Australia and New Zealand. These were some of the best negotiators in the country. You wanted them on your side. If you had a dispute with your mortgage, if you had a dispute with your power bill or your water bill, with their car financing, these were the women you wanted negotiating on your side. They were so good. They're expert negotiators. What I found fascinating was that I had lots of conversations with each and every one of them about how to negotiate more in their salary, because they would come to me. I was the head of the peak body for complaint professionals and dispute resolution professionals. They would come to me, and at some point in their membership would talk to me around, I really struggle with negotiating on my own. And that led me to start researching about this or start reading more about this. And I found that women really struggle with self-negotiation because we're worried that we'll come across as greedy, or that we're worried people will not like us. And there's some truth in that. When women self-negotiate, it can trigger others to deem us, think we're being greedy. So we have to learn to navigate that. But I don't want that to stop you self-negotiating. It's really, really important that you do. So here's some tactics that I can give you in actual fact to start negotiating really skillfully. The first one is when we align ourselves with a standard or a benchmark, others are less likely to think we're being greedy. So it's like, I've done the research and I can see that the salary benchmark for someone in my position is this dollar value. So can we please, have a conversation about how we get my salary to that? Okay, so you're aligning yourself with an industry benchmark or a salary benchmark. The best question you can actually ask is, has this role or has this salary been benchmarked? And you might ask that of HR to find out. So that's a really good tactic. Another tactic for women is perhaps to align themselves to a mission or a cause. So when you're negotiating on your own behalf, it's like, this is what I use for myself. I say, I'd be letting down all women everywhere if I didn't negotiate. Because I am, believe it or not, I'm regularly asked to speak for free. A lot of women speakers are. And it's often we're asked by women. And so I now say, in actual fact, I'd be letting down all women everywhere if I didn't negotiate. How can we solve this together? So there's two aspects to that, and you can do this too. I'd be letting down all women everywhere if I didn't negotiate for my salary. That's part one. Part two is, how can we solve this together? Treat it like a collaborative problem-solving approach. And I think those three tactics, benchmark, aligning, I'd be letting down all women everywhere, and you are, because every time you get a pay rise, all women everywhere get a minuscule pay rise. You're actually lifting the benchmark or lifting the standard for all women everywhere. So align yourself with all women. And how can we solve this together? Talk to your boss about that. How can we solve this together? How can we get my salary to be the same as this? Or how can we increase? I know you've said there's no money left in the kitty for salary increases, but how can we solve this together? Because I want to stay in this company, but I'm not earning as much as my peers outside in industry. How can we solve this together? It might be there's other ways, there's other lines on the P&L where that money can come from, such as training, such as there might be other elements that where the money can come from.
Nice.
So I hope I've given you some tactics there, practical tactics that you can go away and use in actual fact to negotiate, rather than just principles. I want to give you really practical advice.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for that. So talking about practical advice, we know that Women of Impact Retreat is coming up. The June session has been sold out. I understand, but the one at the end of the year is still open. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Wow. Many years ago, back in the 90s, I used to go to this amazing part of the world up in far north Queensland. For those in the US, far north Queensland is very tropical, possibly a little bit like Florida. It's amazing. And it's beautiful. It's lush, it's green. In actual fact, the area is now used. I notice a lot of movies are filmed in that area because it's lush and green and not particularly hugely populated. So it's a beautiful space, a beautiful area. It's where I go, have gone since the 90s when I want to have those breakthrough moments, when I want to take time to reflect. Why? Because it's lush and green and warm and also because it's a little bit remote. So it takes 3 or 4 hours on a plane from most locations in Australia. Some, I think 8 hours from Perth. It's a little bit remote. And so you feel justified in switching off your mobile phone and downing those regular tools and just being in the moment, being in the pool, taking walks in lush tropical rainforest, just being by yourself, journaling, reflecting. It's beautiful. So that's where I've gone for years. And so some years ago, I was like, I would like to take women away on a retreat. Where do I go to have most of my breakthrough moments? Oh my gosh, I want to take them with me to Palm Cove. That's where I go. So that's what I've done. I established some retreats 4 or 5 years ago. I've been going there ever since. And the first year we had about 15 women, the next year 19 women, and it's been growing. And so the June retreat, we've got 30 plus women coming and it's sold out. So I've just launched the August retreat. So there are still spaces in August 2023. And yes, there are still spaces on that retreat. And I would absolutely love it if you were able to make it. What do we talk about? So the theme is always thrive, not just survive. How do we get you back to thriving, not just surviving? So yeah, there is a little bit of down tools. We put our mobiles away during the sessions. We don't start at 9 a.m. We start late. We start, there's something optional early in the morning, a yoga or a walk or something we can do together, or you can just spend time journaling and just being, in communion with yourself. We get going at 9:30 in the morning. We do sessions. I bring in some guest experts. And also you get lots of time with me, facilitating your conversation and dialogue with yourself and mapping out your next year on how you can be the best version of yourself. What I love about it is, we leave our kids at home. We leave our significant others at home, or at least back in the hotel room. And this is your opportunity to connect in with yourself and really connecting with who you are as a person, addressing roadblocks, addressing your own mindset blocks, and addressing, like, who do you want to be? Who's the best you can be and how you're going to get there for the rest of the year. So that's what we do. We look at branding, we look at leadership, we look at mindsets. The last year we did money mindset, we did leading in masculine dominated environments. We did a lot of branding work and we did a lot of sharing with the women and hearing from women from different industries. Look, it's truly one of the favourite times of year for me. And this year I'm in for a treat. I've got 2. Yay. I'm hoping that maybe 2 of your listeners can join me.
You also talk a lot about how to be seen, heard, and promoted, and that might go hand in hand with the strategic visibility concept. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And especially for mums who are either on the way to take a maternity leave or who have just came back from a maternity leave.
Yeah. How to be seen, heard, and promoted without spending hours in the office. Oh my gosh, such a popular topic. I ran a webinar on it late last year, and that's available on my website as well. So Jane, what I might do is I might give you some links which you can put with the show notes so that you can give your readers access to that webinar, how to be seen, heard, and promoted without spending hours in the office. And so the concept I teach is around strategic visibility. So visibility. What is visibility? Visibility is this thing where it's a way of signaling to bosses, decision makers, that we are serious about our career. And the problem for women is often we become intentionally, we haven't understood the role of visibility necessarily. Maybe we haven't been taught it via our networks. So I am teaching it to you now, but we haven't. So sometimes we lean out from our visibility, and they call it intentional invisibility. And sometimes, say you're thinking, oh, I'm thinking of having a baby in a few months, getting pregnant in a few months. So, or I'm about to take some leave, or I'm about to take some study leave even. So what we do is we lean out from our visibility activities. We think, I'm not going to be around in a few months' time, so I'll just lean back and I'll let someone else have a go. Not understanding that you can still lean in and still maintain your visibility, because you might be able to negotiate a later start date. You might get a promotion while you're on parental leave. And yes, promotions and pay rises do happen to people who are on parental leave. You might be planning on doing some study leave, but that's exactly, if you're being visible, you might be able to negotiate that when you come back from your study leave, there is a promotion and a pay rise there for you. You might be able to actually build that in. We haven't understood that is the game. Just because you're taking leave doesn't make you less valuable. Your worth is not there. You're not employed for your time, you're employed for your potential impact. So I want you to remember that. That comes back to that negotiation discussion as well. We are it's no longer about the time. We are not trading money for time. We're trading impact for time. And at a certain point in your career, you have to own that. So strategic visibility is, how can we be strategic about our visibility opportunities so we don't feel overexposed or worn out? So you don't want to be on LinkedIn all day, every day. That's being overexposed and gets you worn out. You can't be in the office all day and every day. At some point, you have to be doing some work. You can't be in front of decision makers all day and every day. At some point, you need to be at your desktop doing some work. So how can we be strategic? So in the webinar, and I'll give you a sneak peek, I talk about one of my clients so she worked out that the bulk of her work was with an overseas client. So, and that was done basically after Australian business hours. So what she would do, and she had kids, so what she would do is come into the office a little bit late, so drop the kids off at school, and then she'd come into the office, and then her office was on a lower level than the executive suites. So she used to just go straight to her office and just work with her team. She had a big team. But what she worked out was that if she went up to the executive suites and made sure to say hello to all the executives on her way through, confidently talk with them about their initiatives and maybe how she could help or any ideas, she would confidently say hello to each of the executives on her way through from the car park to her desk first thing in the morning. And she would remember she was a little bit late, and that's okay. She would confidently and intentionally go and say hello. And like talk about, oh yeah, Brian, remember that meeting we've got tomorrow? I'm looking forward to bringing my ideas to that meeting. Oh, Susie, great to see you online yesterday. I'd really like to have a coffee with you one day soon. So she'd have those ad hoc conversations. Then she'd go to her desk, she'd do a bunch of work with her staff and, get everything organised. From there, she would then go, okay, I need to go home so I could get online. 1, pick up the kids, and 2, get online for my international client where she was doing the bulk of her work. So once again, she would go back upstairs, have those conversations, those visible conversations, making sure that as many of the executives could see her as she could make happen. And then she would go home. And then, because she was invisible when she was working with her international client. That tactic, that strategic visibility tactic, got her not just promoted, but in line and being groomed to be the CEO. So there was a pipeline towards CEO.
Nice.
That's huge. So she wasn't spending hours in the office. She was just being strategic about making sure she was seen by the right people in the right time. So that right time was her time when she could make it happen, in the right place, up on their level. With the right key messages. She did think about what she would say and the conversation she would have while she was going through that executive suite. Yeah. So think about how you might use that idea, how can you get in front of decision makers? So it might be in online forums and making sure you stand out. You're not just a square on a screen, that you do have your video on and you do wear a jacket or a top, bright colors, and get your background looking super professional. So you do stand out in the right way. It might be that you learn to ask smart questions from the back of the room, so you do stand out in front of decision makers or in forums where decision makers are. How can you be strategically and intentionally more visible? Not just visible all the time, so you're overexposed and worn out. How can you make visibility work for you? Even if you're off on parental leave, how can you regularly keep in touch with the people, your manager, whether it's send them a monthly email with an article of interest? What can you do to be strategically more visible with the people who have the power over making decisions about your career? That's my question to you.
Thank you. That's super helpful. I know that this has been seen as everyone as a myth, work-life balance. How can women juggle this work-life balance myth? Does it really exist? And what are your takes on that?
Yeah. Look, there's a lot of debate, and I don't think anyone is right and anyone is wrong. I fall in the school of we can have everything, but just not do everything perfectly. That's the side that I fall on. There's other people that say we can't have it. We have to pick one or two things that we're going to do really well. I don't think it's that polarized. I think it's a combination of everything. And there might be times in your life where you pick one or two things in your life to do really well and you let everything else drop. You might pursue career for a few years and let everything else drop. Or it might be, and that there's another time in your life where you go, actually, I want to do everything. I just don't do anything particularly well. And I'm happy with that. I think you've got to find what works for you, where you are healthy, where your priority number one is you, and you are prioritizing your health and well-being. If there was one thing I could say, if there was one thing I could give you, even if you're super serious about your career, you must maintain a minimum of 30 minutes of health and well-being management in your life, in your day. And how do I know this? Because I talk about, focus on career for lots and lots of women. And I ran a group session with some CEOs and managing directors from some women. It was 10 CEOs and managing directors with Gartner. And what was fascinating was I asked them to rate themselves on their health and well-being management, and did they allocate themselves 30 minutes a day of health and well-being management. And that might be exercise, it might be meditation, it might be doing something for yourself every day that's about you and your health and your well-being. Prioritizing yourself is number one. Because if you're not healthy and there, you can't be there for family, you can't be there for staff, you can't be the best, you can't be there for yourself. And what was fascinating was that all of the women, 10 out of 10, said that they really prioritize health and well-being management, and 4 out of 10, these are CEOs and managing directors, said that 4 of them said that they wouldn't be as successful if they didn't do it. It was part of their career success roadmap. And I think that's critical. I think sometimes we imagine to get that to the top, you have to forsake everything yourself. You have to give yourself up. But there's 4 out of 10 saying if they hadn't prioritized their health and wellbeing management, they wouldn't actually be the CEO or managing director. I think that's really, really important for us to remember, to get to the top of whatever it is and the best you can be in your career. You have to prioritize your health and well-being. So please, in your striving for balance, if you can put 30 minutes in every day that help, that 30 minutes health and wellbeing will help you have more perspective. It'll help you find the calm. It will help you find the balance. It'll help you step back, see things differently. That's why that's important, because it'll help you step back, be self-reflective, not go at things like a bull at a gate, not be so busy. It'll help you, give you the perspective you need to be the best you can be, and find your work-life balance.
Perfect. Great. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for your time. Before we close, I do want to emphasize that you are going to be releasing the second edition of your book, Invisible to Invincible. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what we can expect from the second edition?
Well, times have changed. I released the first edition in 2019, and as I said, it got to be an Amazon bestseller for a moment in time, which was very, very exciting. And I know it's helped, thousands of women, because they write to me and they tell me that I get messages from people, or I'm on LinkedIn, and you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, but they'll message me on LinkedIn and say, "Oh, Amanda, I read your book. I came across you. I read your book, and I really like this aspect of it. Thank you so much." So the second edition is coming out now. Why did I write the second edition? Because so much research has come out since 2019, or since I wrote the book. So much more research, including that women do better when surrounded by a cohort of like-minded women. But I had to get that in the book. I had to. It's so important. So research has come out, but also my thinking has evolved as my clients, so the progress of my clients has evolved. And I'm working more and more with women who have made it into that executive level. They have a seat at the table, or there's a CEO. So I'm working more and more with those senior level women that they've progressed through those junior levels. They've cracked the C-suite. They now have a seat at the table. So I wanted to be able to bring those insights in. So in actual fact, I've added a whole new level and layer to the book. There's a whole new section that wasn't in the first book, how to become the CEO of your life, career, and destiny. Plus, there's new worksheets, there's new resources, and I give anyone who buys the book gets access to all sorts of fantastic resources. So it's a really great investment in your career, because you get access to all sorts of new tools, resources, worksheets, insights, case studies, and a whole new level. So connect with me on my Instagram, in LinkedIn. That's my preferred platform, or sign up to my email newsletter and become one of my Invisible to Invincible launch champions, because I'm going to be calling for champions, because it's such a great message, and I just really truly believe that women empowering other women will be, that's the way to go. So sign up and become a launch champion, and that would be wonderful.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much again for your time and imparting your wisdom with us. If there was one thing that all breadwinning mums can take away from this conversation, what would that be?
You are enough. I mentioned the self-doubt before and the low confidence. Sometimes, deep down inside, for some reason, well, I know why, society sends so many negative messages to women. We are, constantly bombarded with advertising and messages that tells us, we're too fat, too thin, that we're not good enough in some way, shape. We're not stylish enough. We're not ambitious enough. We're not career-minded enough. We're too career-minded. Like, we're constantly sent messages that criticize us in some way, shape or form. Thousands of messages every day that tell us we are not enough. You are enough. You are perfect as you are. You are enough. When you are in the quiet moments, when you find that time to be quiet, deep down that you are in actual fact enough. So if there's one message I can give you, it's that you are enough. Find some self-compassion, some self-love. Find that moment. Find those moments in your day where you can connect back with your enoughness. You are enough. And from that space, that will help you be the best you can be, have the impact you want to have on the world, and live your life to the full. So there you go, become the CEO of your own life, career, and destiny. Why be the 2IC when you can become the CEO instead?
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Amanda. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Jane. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to Breadwinning Mums. Please subscribe and leave us some feedback so we can continue to make the show better for you. If you know a fellow breadwinning mum, please share the show so we can cheer each other on. Until next time.